Memento 2000. This is a fascinating backwards, forwards film. I saw it in the cinema in November 2000, so it's getting on for a quarter of a century now. But it's one of those films, probably the most memorable film for the whole year, although close by was Ghost Dog. Um, th- I can't think of that many other films from that year, but maybe I will if I had a look at a list. It stars Guy Pearce as Leonard Shelby and Carrie Ann Moss as Natalie. And there's a few other characters who have significance. Joey Pantoliano as John Edward Teddy Gamel, and Um, oh, I was let's see, Stephen Tobolowsky as Sammy Jakis and Harriet Sampson Harris as Mrs. Jakis. Now, the film is a story that's told in segments that mainly go in reverse, although there's also this color coding system as well. And I didn't really realize this was all going on when I first saw it. There's a lot about it. There's two timelines, and because you go from back to forwards, but in forward motion, obviously the segments are all told in forward motion, but it's a way of showing what it must be like to have short-term memory. So it's given, it's a great narrative device in the sense that if you have a short-term memory problem, as in you can only remember particular facts for so long before they vanish out of your head. And that's the case for Lenny Shelby. He's been injured. He was attacked. His wife and son are killed. I think the rest of his family. He had a young family with his wife. I think just one child, and they're dead. And he's incapacitated by this brain damage and this condition, which means that he sees he because he can only retain so much information. He tattoos over his body the most important things because this is it. It's all that matters to him is to deal with or exact revenge on the people who caused who harmed his family. And we watch what's happening. We learn about the story because he gives a narrative about the Jakis couple. So Sammy, Mr. and Mrs. Jakis, and that's a tragic story that we gradually learn about. I mean, we learn about in segments. Um, I won't go into the detail. I mean, uh, to some extent, I the whole thing about when this film came out, my gran had she'd already been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and memory problems were at the forefront of my mind at that point because she wasn't recognizing people. We'd lost my granddad, and it was like really painful to see Um, my gran not remembering much, she was confusing other people for other people, and I won't say all the detail, but, she'd been, looked after for a while. She couldn't live at home, so she got looked after by the family, but then she would get so distressed that, she tried running away, and, she got, looked after in a care home eventually for about 4.5 the final 4.5 years of her life, and this was right in the middle, is when Memento came out, um, and, I'd go and see her, some of my friends would come as well, and, um, there's a lot that people I don't think even I didn't understand, the whole, um matter of memory loss and what a huge impact it has at this point. And some of the questions of my friends, some of them were a bit blunt and a bit difficult. I knew that if you don't understand it, you don't understand it. I mean, I've been in workshops and I've found out about people with uh, dementia can think that a shiny floor is actually water, so they won't step on it. So they can get confused by many different environments. They don't recognize people, they don't recognize um, certain aspects of life. And um, sometimes, like my grand, she was almost like she was at age 25. At one point, she started smoking again, like she had done when she was much younger. And there was so much pain just thinking about it and just seeing someone not recognize any of her loved ones. And the whole concept of short-term memory loss or even medium-term memory loss, any sort of memory loss, you think how important memory is for functioning. And one of my friends started getting worried that she was not remembering well and that she was actually because she's about nearly getting on for best part of 2 decades older than me, and she was worried that that was what was happening to her, and I was reassuring her that that wasn't the case. But even if it was, um, the best thing I got the impression from workshops is to believe whatever they say and go along with their reality, because that's much kinder to try to explaining things like explaining your husband's dead and all those sorts of things. That's just should be going through grief many times. That would not be good for her. Now, with this story with Leonard Shelby, his memory loss isn't quite like Alzheimer's. He was very cognizant in some respects, but he couldn't retain information. So after 15 minutes, um, thoughts would just vanish out of his head. Um, and so, I mean, there's one segment where in he's involved in a chase with other people. He suddenly comes to, like he's remembering. He's almost like forgotten what's happening midway through a chase. And he's wondering, is he the person being chased or is he chasing them? And he can't tell. And then he realizes when they start firing at him and trying to kill him that they're chasing him. And it's just like, this, I mean, it's dark humor, but it's just like, um, I hadn't seen anything like this. And it was just like, felt really groundbreaking. All these ideas about what it's like to try and cope with life with a memory that's just gonna run out every few minutes, several times an hour. So he'd have notes, he'd have things he wanted to remember permanently tattooed on his body, but he'd have, other ways of doing it. He'd write things down. But, because when I first saw it, I think I also, blinked and I missed something because, when, a friend and I borrowed it on DVD, I noticed something I hadn't seen the first time around. I thought, "Oh, that changes everything." So I'm not going to say what that is, but it was just like, "Oh, wow, that puts a new spin on things." So you need to be really uh, well rested, not blink and miss things, or just avoid distractions as much as possible. And that's very difficult in the cinema when uh, there are potential distractions. I mean, the actual advantage of DVDs and VHS and streaming is that you can pause and then you can go back. So if you think, "Oh, I'm not quite sure about that," rather than assume, and this is where those medium that you can reverse, you can double check, are better than the cinema. And yet the cinema is an absolutely brilliant place to see most films because you see it on a big screen and you don't get the temptation of distraction. Um, so there's uh, Leonard Shelby aiming to have revenge on these people. He's piecing this whole jigsaw, sort of creating a mind map of what he knows, what he still needs to know. He's like got question marks, and he tries to methodically piece together everything so he knows who he's got to deal with. It's just like, yeah, this is just like fairly mind blowing, really. It's just, oh wow, okay. Um, And given that some of the, characters, I mean, we get, I also at the time, I remember I went, there were a lot of, train problems that, towards the end of, the last 2 or 3 months of 2000, during the autumn and into the Christmas season. So I got a coach from London to Chester, and I shared it. I was sitting next to a film student, and I mentioned about because she asked me what films stood out for me most of the year, and I said Memento. She hadn't heard of it, and I said it's by Christopher Nolan, and her face dropped, and she was on the same course as him, and she was gutted that he'd done that well. And I thought, "Oh," I felt sorry for her, but I hope she's doing really well. But, you got, I mean, Christopher Nolan really made a name for himself that particular year. Now he's very well established, you know, Interstellar, and all it, what's it called? Tenet, a few other films. Gosh, all of these films actually all films, Dunkirk, I mean, that's probably the one that least needs a second viewing to make head or tail of it. But Memento, it really was useful watching again. Um, I know that I scored this film 9 out of 10 straight off when I saw it. I remember talking with my friends straight away after we watched it, Camden Odeon. She turned to me afterwards, she said, "Oh, I don't know what to make of that. Can't make head or tail of it." And, so I had remembered a lot, so I pieced things together as best as I could. So I tried to explain things as I saw it, but I'd missed something. But I just went through all of the segments as I remembered them, and, just relayed them to her, and she understood it better, and she agreed it was a really good film. And then we saw it a second time, and I realized that I'd made a mistake about one of the segments, but it was still a really still such a, breaking film. So, yeah, 9 out of 10. It's, it's very clever. It's kind of like, oh, like all these, like, some narratives, all these little segments, and people who are, it turns out, adversaries. And there's one point where he wakes up in a room and he's like, "Where am I? Oh, it's a sort of generic room. There's no furnishings apart from just the basics. So it's a hotel room." There's all this that he has to figure out, and I think I really like films where everything is figured out in a great deal of detail. Um, so I liked it. I just thought, yeah, it's a really thought-provoking film that, I can, like, um, ponder over afterwards, and I did, and I understood it better after the second view. What I'd like to do is, see it sometime soon, and then probably give another review with a bit more detail, maybe as spoilers, because in a way, there's, a lot to it that I don't really want to spoil, but I'd like to know what you think about it, if you've seen it. Hopefully you have, because it's quite an established film. It's been around for so long. It's a classic from the noughties, really, I would say. And it really was, um, Christopher Nolan's breakthrough film. Um, so, uh, let me know your thoughts. Um, thanks for watching. Please like if you like this. Thanks for subscribing. Please hit the notification button. Hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.